Thank you, everybody, for coming to the Aaron Torres Podcast YouTube page. If you could do me a quick favor, see that little black subscribe button at the bottom of your screen? Go ahead, click that black subscribe button. Really does help our audience grow, really does help our channel grow, really does help and mean more than you could possibly know. So go ahead, hit that little black subscribe button. Also, thank you to our presenting sponsor, Betfred Sportsbook and the Betfred Sportsbook app. Bet 50 on any game, get $250 in free bets. Thank you again to Betfred. Thank you again to you. Now, here is the video that you came here for. All right, so we just talked about things from the Arkansas perspective. What I want to do now is switch gears, and I want to look at things from the Kentucky perspective, because Arkansas, huge win, big momentum, February, this is what they do. From the Kentucky perspective, it's a lot different. And it was interesting because I was thinking about something as the game wrapped up on Tuesday night. One, I often say that the more interesting story is in the losing locker room. And in general, on a day like today, that's usually the case. But for Kentucky, I don't know that I feel that way, and let me explain why. You know what my emotions were when that game went final from the Kentucky perspective? From the Arkansas perspective, I just explained it. But from the Kentucky perspective, this is what I was thinking, and I bet a lot of Kentucky fans, many of you listening, probably felt the same way. Remember when you were a kid and you did something really dumb, and you were ready for your parents found out, they were ready to yell and scream and whatever, and then they would just say, Johnny, Sarah, Billy, Jane, Aaron, whatever your name was. Aaron, I'm not mad. I'm just disappointed. Well, I'll be honest. That was kind of how I felt about Kentucky after this game. I'm not mad. I'm not going to yell and scream. I'm not going to overreact. I've already told you guys and girls, I'm never doing the fire John Calipari rant again, because I truly believe that there's no coach that guarantees them to be in position every year the way that John Calipari does. I'm never going to do the John Calipari fire John Calipari rant again. And I'm not going to sit here and say that I don't think Kentucky is going to make the NCAA tournament, because I think they're not only going to make the NCAA tournament, I think they can actually do damage when they get there. But at the same time, it's about Tuesday night. Right now, we're reacting to that. And I'm just disappointed. And let me explain why I'm disappointed. It is because everything about this game, all the momentum, was favoring Kentucky. First off, as I said, huge game. Both teams firmly on the bubble coming in. Both teams need a win. For Arkansas, it is their second straight road game before what starts a pretty lengthy home stand. They play 3 of their next 4. But second straight road game. They were in South Carolina on Saturday. They survived. They fly home to Fayetteville, fly back to Lexington a day later. Kentucky's at home. The crowd is electric. Listen, Rupp Arena gets a bad rap. Every time I've been there, it's electric. It felt electric on Tuesday night. I obviously wasn't there, but it felt electric on TV. Big game, at home, great crowd. And to John Calipari's credit, all the momentum, right? They had won 6 of 7 to their credit. They were playing some of their best basketball and really coming off a Florida win that really, it was close, but it really wasn't. And so for them to lose that game in the manner that they did, it is just so frustrating for the reason that I just said with Arkansas. It's because you come out, you're amped up, you rely on the crowd, and then the game gets deeper in, and it's clear what Arkansas's game plan is, and they're making adjustments, and they're making changes, and they're rotating players. In Kentucky, it was kind of the same. For Arkansas, it seemed pretty obvious to me. This was the game plan. Limit Oscar Tshiebwe down low. Don't let Kentucky beat you from the three-point line with Antonio Reeves, CJ Frederick, and Cason Wallace. Well, Oscar Tshiebwe, as I said, 7.7 rebounds, quiet night for him overall. And then look at everybody else. In total, 4 of 13 from 3 for Kentucky. Cason Wallace attempted 17 shots, but only 3 of them were three-pointers. And so that was the game plan. That was what was going on. It was clear to everybody watching. And Kentucky really had no counterpunch. And so that is why it was disappointing. And I'll just be honest, as I was watching that game unfold, Arkansas pulls away. Again, I don't want to discredit Arkansas because somebody had to win that game. They went and took that. But I did have one other thought. And again, this isn't a fire Calipari rant, but I was thinking this, and I seriously mean this. Is this year John Calipari's worst coaching job at Kentucky? Because I'll be honest, I actually really do think that it is. And let me explain. This is not John Calipari's worst year at Kentucky. That was 2 years ago, 2021, during COVID. But that was a COVID year. Kids got to campus late. You know, they were in a bubble, couldn't hang out inside the dorms, couldn't get together, couldn't really practice, start and stop. I'll forgive anybody for a disaster that season. Kentucky was really bad, but so was Duke. Carolina almost missed the tournament. Michigan State was in the play-in game. If you go to football, Michigan was a mess under Jim Harbaugh. They've won 2 Big Ten titles since. So I give Calipari a pass for 2021. 2013, only other year he missed the NCAA tournament. Guess what? We all remember they lost their entire team off that 2012 national championship. There were other years that have been disappointing. But I think this one's by far the worst because let's just go through Kentucky's schedule. Think about all their losses this year, okay? Michigan State night 1, sort of forgivable. They were in control, whatever. But from there, think about their losses. Gonzaga in a game that they weren't even competitive. They just didn't show up ready to play. Top 10 matchup on the road, neutral site, whatever. It was in Spokane. You get the point. They didn't even show up ready to play. So you have that game. You have the UCLA game, which was literally one of the worst games historically in the John Calipari era at Kentucky in terms of offensive efficiency. You have the Alabama game where you absolutely get punked. You have the Missouri game where you absolutely get punked. You have the Arkansas game on Tuesday night where you absolutely get punked. By the way, you have South Carolina, which was one of the worst losses in regular season history of Kentucky basketball. It's not worse than Evansville a few years ago, but it's pretty close up there. And so I bring it up because think about this season for Kentucky. They're still in position. They're still 16-8. I still think they're making the NCAA tournament. But they've basically lost every meaningful game. Their 2 best wins as of right now, as I'm recording here on February 9th, their 2 best wins against a fringe NCAA tournament Michigan team that lost their starting point guard in that game, and against the Tennessee team that, never forget, the reason they won that game was because Severe Wheeler got hurt, and the lineup that everybody was telling him to play was the one that he trotted out there. If Severe Wheeler is healthy, like that win was by accident. If Severe Wheeler is healthy, I don't think they probably win that game. Now they do. It happens. Sometimes injuries work for your favor when other team has players get hurt. In their case, one of their own players got hurt and they took advantage of it. And so when I look at the season, just think about that. Bad loss after bad, not bad loss to who they lost to, but an embarrassing fashion. Embarrassing fashion to Alabama, embarrassing fashion in a different way to UCLA, embarrassing fashion in a different way to Arkansas, embarrassing way to South Carolina. But they're all still embarrassing, and I do think it does fall on the coaching staff. Again, not saying he's going to be fired, not saying he should be fired. He's bringing the #1 recruiting class next year. If he brings back some of these guys, he's going to have another really good team next year. So it's not to say that. But what it is to say is it's just disappointing. It's disappointing in the effort. It's disappointing, by the way, 3 home losses. Remember when Kentucky never lost at Rupp Arena? Lost to South Carolina, Kansas, and Arkansas at home right now. 3 bad losses, and it's just disappointing. So I think I've said what I have to say about Kentucky. I don't think there's anything more insightful. I do worry a little bit about Oscar Tshiebwe. Is the book out on him, right? Like, you throw a bunch of 7-footers at him, and, maybe round 1 of the NCAA tournament, people won't have him. But you throw 7-footers at him, he's got no answer. That was another thing that was disappointing, by the way, about the Kentucky game on Tuesday night. Damian Collins was playing the game of his life. He barely played in the second half. John Calipari said, I want to get Oscar back in a groove. It's not just about tonight. What about getting Damian Collins in a groove? What about playing the team, the lineups that help you win? And so I'm not going to go on and on. And to be clear, I'm still not down on this Kentucky team. They have Case and Wallace handling the ball. Antonio Reeves and CJ Frederick are both really good despite what happened on Tuesday night. And I still think they're going to get to the tournament. And I think once they get there, they can do some damage with the right matchups. Now, this isn't a vintage Kentucky team, which again speaks to where we are with Kentucky basketball. But they get the right matchups. I think they can beat a lot of teams. But I don't know how you can't be frustrated, how you can't be disappointed if you're a Kentucky fan. Not because they lost, but the manner in which they did it. Again, to quote my mom when I did dumb stuff when I was a kid, Aaron, I'm not mad. I'm just disappointed. John Calipari, I'm not mad. I'm just disappointed.